is that if we do have this environment where silver is becoming more predominant as money, what that actually looks like. And you talked about some of the bullion dealerships almost becoming like a de facto bank. And I was wondering if you could talk a bit more about that because, when we really do have a bigger issue, if it hits the dollar, if it hits these other currencies in a more severe, overt way, how
Mhm.
does that, how do you think that actually goes in terms of how people are tangibly using their silver?
Well, you got to put yourself into a world like that, and it's hard to do. But it's a world where nobody wants dollars, or it's just not worth enough. And even if it is for a certain transaction, you have to get rid of it so quickly that the profit margins that you need to make are so high that it's just not worth it. I mean, it happened recently in Israel in 1984 that basically people stopped paying their mortgages and banks stopped collecting and stopped sending, threatening letters because what's the point of collecting a few thousand old shekels that are worth, a few cents? So everything just stopped. And so then what did people use for money? Well, here they used dollars because the dollar was still stable in 1984. It was pretty strong. So the currency just changed from the old shekel to the dollar for a while until they got the new shekel working based on the dollar, and then distributed that into everyone's account. Uh, so that's what happened. So what would happen in a world where people don't want a dollar? So they're not going to exchange silver for dollars. So then what are all these companies going to do that have all this silver, and their business model now is to sell it for dollars, but now dollars don't buy anything. So what are they going to do? It's not like there's a plan now in place where the silver retailers are planning to become banks when this happens. But it's the way business flows. Like once something doesn't work, once you can't sell silver for dollars anymore because you can't do anything with the dollars, so what are you going to do? You have all this silver and you have people that need it because they need money. So you loan it out at an interest rate denominated in silver. And that's what a bank is. Except, banks before 1873, they did the same thing, except they used the silver substitute called a dollar, which happened to be paper and lighter. It's like we're going back into a circle of where we were back in 1873, which is what a reset is. Like, this is like, I guess, tangentially related. We talk about resets, but a reset on WEF terms, or let's say they introduce a central bank digital currency and enslave us all, and we have no privacy at all. That wouldn't be a reset. That would be continuation of slavery. A reset, we're going back to where we were before, which was when silver was money. And one more thing I want to say about that: I'm not saying that silver is going to be money directly for that long of a time period. Maybe it will be, but generally silver is going to be money for at least for that emergency time period when gold substitutes no longer work and nobody trusts them. So then what are you going to do? So you're going to go to silver because that divides gold very well. And so we see every time there's a monetary panic, the gold ratio goes 15 to 1, and then silver makes a moonshot and it stays there for a little bit, and then central banks kind of get control of the situation again, and it goes back down. So this time it'll go up. It'll stay there for a little bit longer because the panic's going to take a little longer to sort out. But basically, once you have that 15 to 1 ratio, I'd say start spending. You know, we don't stack just to have shiny things in our basement. It's nice, but we want stuff.
Well, certainly will be interesting to see what that looks like when it plays out. Along those lines, something else that you've commented on, in addition to how we've seen metal coming out of the COMEX and LBMA stockpile, we've also seen the banks increasingly getting net long silver, as well as the open interest dropping in silver quite a bit to the lowest level we've seen in a while. Curious if you had any thoughts on the drop in open interest and what's going on there.
Well, the drop in open interest would be that you aren't seeing contracts open up, but you are seeing old positions close. So that would be short positions closings there. So a lot of shorts are getting closed. When open interest goes up, you're getting speculators go in, and then you have to have a new short on the other side of that. So then open interest rises. But that means that the short positions are closing out. I haven't checked the COT numbers. How many shorts, how many longs there are? Everything's net long now. Is that what it is?
Yep.
Are there? So bullion banks are net long now. Um, so it hasn't been as low since it looks like, what is this, the 5-year chart?
This
Yeah.
is, yes, the 5 year.
Uh, I'm usually when open interest is this low, you just look at the graph. I mean, in March 2020, it was we were at what, like 10, 50, $11, and then it went back up again. So at numbers these low, this low, which is below March 2020, then the price is going to go up again. Exactly when, you don't know. But the key is you don't want to be in a situation where you're chasing it. You want to be in while it's low, so that when it goes up, you're not, clicking the computer the next day and saying, "Oh my God, silver went up 10%. I better get in now." No, you don't want to get in now. You want to get in before that. That's the whole point. So, what does it matter if it takes a week, if it takes a month, if it takes a year? I don't think it's going to take a year, but we've seen this before. We've seen open interest this low. We've seen what happens before. It's going to happen again.
Well, it does seem like when you play through the events, where else are we going? Because in the meantime, as that is happening, something I know you've talked about as well, most powerful buyers in the Treasury all bailing at once, Fed, foreign governments, commercial banks stepping back. It makes you wonder, as rates are going up and the Fed doing quantitative tightening, who is going to buy those bonds? And as I know you've pointed out, as that continues to play out, the Fed taking a hit on their balance sheet as well. I know you're an advocate that you do think a pivot is coming. So far, they continue to say that they're going to fight inflation, although you wonder if there will be some break point like we saw in the British market where they were doing quantitative tightening and then they hit a crisis and things changed pretty quickly. But what do you see with the Fed going forward in the next couple of months or year or so with everything you've been reporting on there?
These narratives change. The human attention span gets shorter and shorter every day now. And if you remember back in 2008, all you got to do is watch The Big Short, the movie, and you can feel the panic going on everywhere. Except this time, it's going to be so much worse because everything is so much bigger.
Yeah.
And all the printing done in the last 14 years. So like, all the academic articles and CNBC, pivot, no pivot, schmivot, what? Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a panic because the structure of everything that caused 2008 has gotten so much worse. I mean, look, it's not going to be exactly the same. It's not going to be like, oh, there's a subprime problem in the housing market, and then all of a sudden everything collapses. It's always going to be something new that nobody was expecting. So it's going to be somewhere that they weren't expecting, but it doesn't matter where it's from. It's going to happen, and in that panic, when, let's just say, for example, that there's a treasury auction, there's a 10-year treasury or a 30-year treasury, and nobody buys anything. Like, it just goes zero bid. And then the Fed goes, no, they go into you like, look, just relax. Everything's going to be fine. We have to fight inflation. Do you think they're going to say that? That's crazy. No, they're gonna send out some academic article about dysfunctional markets, and we have to calm things and very temporary, and it'll all be fine, and then we'll go back to fighting inflation later. That's what they're going to do, and they're going to print amounts that we haven't seen before. And are they going to say this is the pivot? Or are they going to announce it? This is the pivot. Everyone, all the silverbacks can now buy their silver or announce it. Blah, 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 blah. They're not going to do that. They're going to say this is not a pivot. We're not pivoting. There's no pivot. We're just buying all these bonds from this auction, and that's it. So just calm down and keep collecting your welfare. Okay.